Number 2. A maze of boredom and disdain. So I guess at this point, analyzing how god-awful the Rings of Power is about as petty as pissing on the grave of my sworn enemy. I mean, this show seems to do enough on its own to make everyone hate it. It feels like most of the time the writers make narrative decisions based solely on how much of a negative reaction they'll get from it. Oh, you like the Balrog? Guess what? She's an allegory for climate change now. You like how intimidating Sauron was in Lord of the Rings? Fuck you, he cries now. And might be gay? It feels like no matter where you turn in this show, there's nowhere to hide from the horrible dialogue, bad acting, terrible action, awful effects, stupid ideas, idiotic characters, boring scenes, retarded plot lines.
2 hours later.
Thank you kindly, Grandel.
Oh, I must have fallen asleep. I had this terrible nightmare with this sand hobbit named Gandalf because... oh, fuck.
Goodbye, Grandelf.
Bullshit!
So anyway, as I was saying, this show is already dead and buried, and it had a very empty funeral. So let's dig up this corpse one more time and have a thrill, shall we? Number 3. Nonsensical relationships. You know, David Lynch once said, "At the end of the day, a film is about human relationships, about connecting with an audience, and getting them to relate to your characters." Now, somewhere along the way, I think this little nugget of truth got dropped down a fucking well at Amazon, because none of these characters connect with the audience or are relatable in any way. Let alone could be considered to have human relationships. Are we supposed to be enjoying this? Do the writers think that the audience have been in any way shipping these two unlikable, ugly, and annoying characters? I want these two to get it on as much as I want to see 2 planks of wood get slapped together. Actually, that sounds a bit more compelling. Oh yeah, do it again. So much of what should have been the core of this story is either boring or unnatural. Take Isildur and Astrid for an example. So in their first meeting, Astrid immediately stabs Isildur in the leg with a kitchen knife. I guess because she's mediocre looking, he doesn't immediately kill her and plays the whole thing off like it's no big deal.
It's alright. Does it hurt? Oh.
Doesn't hurt, of course it hurts. I just stabbed you in the thigh.
Could have been worse.
You know, I haven't read up on my medieval medical journals lately, but I think if you get brutally stabbed, it might lead to severe blood loss, or at least an infection. I mean, this chick doesn't look that clean to me, so I doubt she's been washing her kitchen utensils lately. So you'd think that Isildur would hold something against the person who may have well just killed him. What's-her-name from last season died from an arrow wound, so it's not out of the realm of possibility for someone to die from a minor injury in this world.
Don't you stick that knife in your leg. Ah! Could have been worse.
It's pretty obvious that the writers wanted the enemies to lovers trope in this story. You know, when 2 characters meet, and there's some kind of hostility masked with the undertones of love and romance. Maybe they start off on opposite sides of a conflict, or come from very different cultures or backgrounds. So there's this tension that drives them together, but it also adds to the passion of their love story. So there might be some fighting, a bit of playful violence that has a clear sexual tension. But overall, neither character really gets hurt or tries to actually maim the other. It's just for show. It's meant to be playful and endearing. Let's take the Mask of Zorro for an example, and compare it to the Rings of Power. So Antonio Banderas is trying to steal a horse or some shit from Catherine Zeta-Jones' father. She catches him in the act, and they immediately begin a sword fight. However, the overall tone of this scene is light and fun. The two fight in a way that is more similar to dancing than actual dueling. So it's clear that Banderas is the better sword fighter, as he's constantly toying with her throughout the duel. This is also known as flirting. Jones gets pissed off by this, and attacks him more aggressively. This is also known as passion. It also reveals that while Jones is attracted to him, she isn't going to be fucked around, so Banderas is going to need to be on his A game if he wants to win over a woman of her standing. The fight culminates with Banderas disrobing Jones with his sword. In other words, he's disarming her in more ways than one, if you know what I'm saying. The reason this is compelling is due to stuff like emotional undertones, strong character development, sexual tension, classic storytelling, and so on. It is a simple yet well-made scene that tells us a lot about the characters and their relationship without having much dialogue. If you were to watch this scene on its own without the context of the film, you'd still walk away with a solid understanding of who these characters are and what they want from each other. It seems, however, that characters like Isildur and Astrid hold almost none of these qualities.
I know. There are no girls with good personalities.
So first of all, the tension in this scene is cut right away when Astrid stabs Isildur. It's the first thing that happens, so there's no time for the audience to feel the growing tension of what is supposed to be a passionate relationship. Any remaining tension that could have been brought from Isildur's reaction is also gone because he immediately forgives her for doing this. There is no hostility or opposition between the two for this misunderstanding. Isildur hardly questions her intentions, or chastises her for attempting to murder him. All this reveals is that he's pussy whipped by her instantly, and that he lacks any kind of real backbone. There is no seduction, charm, flirting, or passion, only awkward millennial fumbling.
You sure it doesn't hurt?
No, it hurts.
Sorry,
So instead of a compelling scene with stakes and interest, we get a weak-willed male character, and a bland and uninteresting female character. The only thing that we learn about either is that they're both incompetent and dumb. While yes, they do tell us information about themselves through dialogue, however, you hardly need a degree in writing to know that showing is better than telling. So if you took these two scenes and put them side by side, you'd learn a lot more from the characters in Mask of Zorro, even though they have a fraction of the dialogue. Now going back to the relatability of the characters, Isildur acting all chill after getting his leg gouged by a knife from a Walmart box set is pretty bewildering. Now I've been stabbed by multiple women in my life, and never have I reacted so calmly to it. Usually it results in dark wooded areas with deep 6-foot holes. The trick is to bury the body up to 3 feet, then throw in a small dead animal, like a raccoon or a squirrel. That way, when the sniffer dog comes around, it'll dig up the animal you buried, and nobody will think twice about it. Isildur, you're already in a dark forest with no witnesses. You're already halfway there. In fact, in every scene these two characters have together, Isildur is completely emasculated by Astrid. He either acts submissive, weak, overly sympathetic, talks about his dead mom, or acts like a little bitch. Even in the end, he only gets to kiss Astrid because she approaches him. If she didn't come to his cabin to cheat on her fiancé, then Isildur wouldn't have gotten anything out of this relationship. Essentially, Isildur's main move on this broad is to hang around like a pouting asshole until she eventually caves. Wait, am I watching Attack of the Clones? My point is that it would be far more interesting if Isildur acted like a fucking man once in a while, and tried to win over his love interest with a little bit more class and romance. You know, like they're in his apartment, playing piano together. He could try to make a move on her, but she rejects him. So he stops her from leaving by punching the door closed, and then really aggressively forces her to kiss him.
Say, kiss me. Kiss me.
I don't know. Something with a bit more of that 80s passion. So it's really hard to get invested in a guy who does nothing masculine to win over his female counterpart. It also doesn't help that Astrid is never in a position of helplessness. Now call me old-fashioned, but usually in a romantic story, the man saves the woman from perilous situations, often risking his own life, or at least at the cost of his own physical health. That's not to say that the woman needs to be incapable or weak, but it doesn't hurt to show a bit of vulnerability once in a while. Characters like Elena from Zorro, or Jenny from Gangs of New York, are strong women in their own right.
I have had the proper instruction since I was 4.
Women like to be saved and rescued because it allows the man to show that he's able to take care of her and her children and protect them from danger. Now, can you tell me that you'd trust this guy with your child? He gets bested by a woman half his size. He's easily tricked and falls into traps. He gets his ass saved by an actual kid. He fucking walks into an open mud pit for no apparent reason and can't even work up the courage to ask out a chick who's clearly into him. Surprisingly, women aren't attracted to men who are completely incapable of taking care of themselves. The funniest part about this whole plotline is that even after Astrid finally admits that she has feelings for him, Isildur abandons her at the first opportunity he gets. And it all happens off screen, so we don't even get an emotional goodbye. It just cuts to Isildur being on a ship and her watching him leave. They didn't even bother to film a scene where Isildur has to debate on what the best course of action is. Does he struggle between his love for Astrid and his duty to his people? I don't know, because the visual storytelling says that he doesn't give a fuck about her, and he just leaves. And if you don't agree with me on how male and female love stories go, then track down Diana Gabaldon and tell her to shove her 103 book series up her anti-feminist ass. The overall point I'm trying to make here with Isildur is that pretty much all of the relationships in this show suffer from a complete breakdown of logic and emotional impact. None of the characters are compelling enough to get invested in their emotional struggles, let alone their romantic interests. Whether it's Galadriel and Elrond, Sauron and Celebrimbor, or everyone's favorite, Galadriel and Sauron, none of them are very gripping.
Heal yourself.
God. You know, jeez. That's just terrible.
What the hell is that, dude? That didn't sound very genuine.
No.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my little tangent on Rings of Power. If you like hearing my elegant voice, then please hit the like and subscribe button. My self-respect hangs by a thread, so please do your good deed for the day.